And how you doing, everybody? Vasuvada Party Charlie O here with you. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday, October 21st, 2021. We're 10 and a half months into the year. I cannot believe it, especially where we started to where we are. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. And check them out. 40 years celebrating Silicon Valley's longest serving British pub and restaurant. The best British food and drink you'll have in Silicon Valley, BritanniaArmsDianza.com. 408-252-7262. And I was told to remind everybody that they do cater to office parties. They will come to you and they will have your group events all set up. They have 20 TVs for college football, NFL action, all the MLB playoff action during the week, as well as weekday specials as well, too. So the Britannia Arms, next time you're in Silicon Valley, check them out at BritanniaArmsDianza.com, 408-252-7262. Charlie, how are you?
Baby, I am still on Alaska time. I have to tell you, I'm dreaming catch a can right now.
Alaska time, huh? All right. Well, I guess that's what are they 2 hours behind California?
Actually, they are on what we would call mountain time right now. They don't do daylight savings time because they don't need to save daylight time
Right.
because of.
So wait, they're an hour ahead of California?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though they're west of Vancouver?
Yeah.
Huh. I never knew that.
I didn't either.
When I went to Alaska, I thought they were on the same deal with Hawaii. I know they don't do daylight savings. Oh, they don't do daylight savings, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I was on a cruise ship. I didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter what time. It's like being in a casino. You don't know what time it is unless you look after they stop pumping oxygen, but you got the ocean to look at and you got everything to look at. So we'll get to all the baseball.
Whales, I mean, yeah. It was a tough life.
Well, I fully expect you to come back with some animal skin around your neck here for the show this time.
No fur. No
fur. All right. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3:00 Mondays, 12 o'clock today, right now, as we're going live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Tomorrow we'll be on with the baseball show at 12:30 Eastern, and then that'll be followed by the football show at 1 o'clock, the Friday football show. 1 o'clock Eastern, we'll have our intern, Nick Robinson, as well, too. And don't forget, every day we're on at 6 o'clock Eastern on social media posts with our picks. If there's earlier games like there were the last couple of days, then we'll be on earlier. But at least we'll have our final picks of the day, Monday through Friday by 6 Eastern. And then on Saturdays, 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 6:30 for college football Saturday, noon Eastern on Sunday, and 3:30 Eastern on Sunday afternoon for the late games and any playoff games that are going on. All right, all the business taken care of. Let's get started with the NFL. Last week in the NFL, I had the number, and I thought I put this down here. Jacksonville gets their first win of the year over Miami last Sunday. Now there's talk of Tua Tagovailoa being traded to the Washington football team, and Deshaun Watson going to move into Miami before the trade deadline, I guess, Charlie. So, but what about Jacksonville and all that? You were probably gone, or you might have been just here at the same time that Urban Meyer was going through all his little videos and shenanigans and everything that was going on for an 0-5 team, and then not flying back with his team. That was one big deal. But then they had 10 days to get ready. And now they got a win on a last-second kick in London over Miami for the victory before probably anybody got up on the West Coast to know that Jacksonville has one win.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, what an idiotic thing by the coach.
And he's a smarter guy than that, and I know him a little bit. He's a smarter guy than that.
Yeah, men are stupid. Okay,
men are stupid, and there's video cameras around everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, what more can I say?
Yeah.
But the best thing for Jacksonville was they were able to get out of town. And sometimes getting out of town is the best thing that can happen. And in this case, they were able to get out of town and get 6 hours away out of town and play early morning. And, there's nothing like a win for a winless team that will make everybody forget about what's going on. Now, I don't know that will make Mrs. Meyer forget about what's going on. But nonetheless, for the Jaguar fans, having a win in the books is a huge deal. And I don't know that it's going to make a big difference in what the overall final record's going to be. I still think they're going to probably be a 3 or 4 win team by the end of the season. But good for the Jaguar fans. And I still think Urban Meyer is a very, very short-term fit there. We all thought that when he went there. Big contract, big money. Urban Meyer is a great college coach, just like
Steve Spurrier.
Steve Spurrier, yeah. There's just some guys that are great college coaches, and that's not a slam. I mean, being a great college coach is a great thing, but I just don't think he's going to fit in the NFL, and so I think it's going to be a short-term deal. Is it going to be the USC job? I don't know, maybe not. But I don't think he's going to be in the NFL long. But good for Jacksonville fans. Now you get back to this whole Miami thing of Tua going to Washington and Deshaun going to Miami. Vasu, I still think Watson and his legal trouble.
But he's not on the commissioner's exempt list, and that's something that should be noted because I noted that from Dan Lust, our legal attorney, and everybody else, Schefter, and everybody else that pointed that out. He is eligible to play immediately and you know what? Frankly, yes, there's a lot of things. It's a privilege to play in the NFL. I believe that, but you're also innocent until you're proven guilty.
Oh yeah, no. I'm all for that, but I'm also a risk assessment guy. All right. And at this point, if I'm an owner, I've got to look at what if, and it's, I'm sorry, I'm back in my room with that crazy clock today, just
That's all right.
on a deal. But I've got to look at what if, and at this point, the what ifs are really, really heavy, and I'm going to take on a heavy contract that I may be able to get out of because of some things, but I'm going to make some moves that could be really short term if the what ifs come true. So I've got to be really convinced that I got to know that I'm making a really short term move that may or may not pay off quickly. And if they're not convinced that move is going to pay off quickly, that's a bad move.
Jacksonville 1-5, scored 116 points, given up 172 points. They are tied with Houston for last in the division of the AFC South. Not a great division. Tennessee 4-2, Indianapolis 2-4. Indianapolis had a chance to win last week as well too. Well, let's move on to the NFL from Week 6. Green Bay dominated Chicago. I had my former coach on, who's from Wisconsin, the other day, Terry Harkey, great baseball man from the South Bay area, also a scout for the Braves and the Astros. So we talked a lot of baseball, but he could not get away without talking about Wisconsin a little bit. And apparently, through Terry Harkey, through Aaron Rodgers, he owns me as my baseball coach, and as my team gets dominated by the Bears again. Green Bay 5-1. They are atop the division in the NFC North. They're 2 games better than Minnesota and Chicago. The poor Lions are 0-6 as the Bengals beat them pretty badly as well too. But right now, Aaron Rodgers, that Week 1 loss is a distant, way back, like in the 19th century, distant loss for that day compared to what they've done the last 5 games in a row, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, all the controversy seems to be gone. All is well in Green Bay. It's loves and kisses, hugs. All is forgiven. No talk about trades. No talk about end of tenure in Green Bay, at least for now. And it's Packers. And they're playing great football. So that's, if you're in the NFC, that's going to be scary. They're playing well. The Bears, hey, the expectation, Bears fans always have great expectations. We could write a novel wait a minute. I'm sorry, that title was taken. But there's always great expectations, and I'm sorry, I don't think they've got the right coach. I've not, he came on like a house of fire and then just went to ashes. I like Fields. I think he's there. I think there's some things there that may happen right. I think he's gotten tossed into the fire a little sooner than what I would like to have seen. But I think it's a wait till next year situation, and we'll see what the next coaching next coaching regime can do, because I think there'll be a new coach there next season.
Possibly. That's entirely possible. But I think Justin Fields now has proved that he can play a little bit. That's a tough Green Bay defense, and they were right there in that game until the fourth quarter, until the late third quarter, early fourth quarter for them to go on. All right, the Bengals keep the Lions winless. Poor Dan Campbell, but that's the way it goes. But Joe Burrow's played well. Their defense has actually played well. In the early games, the Colts blast the Texans. They get their second win. Houston's falling apart. Obviously, this Deshaun Watson thing has definitely kept them back. Davis Mills in a tough situation there, the former Stanford quarterback. The Chiefs have played well the last 2 weeks. They beat Washington. They covered 31-13. Thought Washington might have a game with them. They're back to 3-3. That AFC West, you're either 4-2 or 3-3. The Chargers and the Raiders are tied for 4-2. The Chargers have the tiebreaker because of the Monday night win 2 weeks ago. And then Denver has lost 2 in a row. They play tonight on Thursday Night Football. We'll get to that in a second. They're 3-3. And then Kansas City is 3-3. Breakdown of the AFC West, Charlie, as we talk about the Chiefs right now. We'll get to the NFC North in a second. The Vikings over Carolina in overtime last week. They're both 3-3. And then the Baltimore Ravens beat up on the Chargers last week. I thought the Chargers would come out and play better. They looked lackluster on Sunday morning. It was West Coast time Sunday morning, and it was 17-0 before you knew it. And they were done by the time the second half rolled around. So the last of the morning games here, but the Chiefs and the Chargers in the AFC West. Do we still think about the Raiders and the Broncos in that division?
Well, I think we still think about the Raiders because I thought the fact that they came out and just handled business after the Gruden thing, Gruden was gone, and it was kind of like, okay, so he's gone. We're coming back out and playing football. So I think that's a good sign. You wanted to see what they were going to do the first game back after that kind of little traumatic situation, and they came back out like a business and said, okay, he's gone, we're back. And that's a good sign. So I think they're still in it. I think the division is going to come down between them and Kansas City. I think Kansas City is going to get better. I think what we've seen from them in the beginning of the season is a bit of an anomaly. I still think it's going to be them in the end, but I think they and Las Vegas are going to make it an interesting run throughout the course of the season.
What do you think about the Chargers and Justin Herbert? Do you think they'll be there at the end too?
Yeah, I do. I think they can make it interesting. I was really disappointed with their play on Sunday. Of course, we always, that West Coast to East Coast thing, that's not a joke. We always talk about it and everybody, what an excuse. No, that's not an excuse. That's a real quantifiable factor when those teams play that way. And I think that that's one of the things that we've seen the 49ers work with a lot, where they'll actually go and stay the whole week rather than just do that travel thing. And it's helped them do that. But I was really surprised that they were out of it that early. For the Ravens, that was the first points they had scored in the first quarter. I don't know. It wasn't this season, but it was like in like 10 quarters or something. It was crazy. They hadn't been scoring in the first quarter, and they came out and scored in the first quarter in that game, and that really gave them the momentum there. I think they've a team that's underachieved so far this season. So I think this may be a springboard for them to do better for the rest of the season after what they've done.
Hi, Frank. Nice to hear from you. I wear sunglasses when the Chargers are on TV. I'm not sure what that's referring to, but I'm sure that has something to do with it as well too. All right, we get to the afternoon games last week in the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals are 6-0. I have to give Matt Mayoko credit, the 49ers beat writer. He told me in the summer that he thought that they were a Super Bowl contending team. I still don't know if they're a Super Bowl contending team. I was questioning their defense a little bit. Looks like their defense has no problems. They just traded for Zach Ertz at tight end after Max Williams went out. They go into Cleveland, and maybe Cleveland's not that good, but they went in there and throttled Cleveland. Of course, we thought that we knew the Rams were very good, and they went into Los Angeles and throttled the Rams. So it's no joke here with the Arizona Cardinals. They're 6-0, the only undefeated team left in the NFL right now. They are fighting out with the Cowboys at 5-1, the Packers at 5-1, Tampa Bay at 5-1, and the Rams at 5-1 in their own division. And then Baltimore is 5-1. The best record in the AFC right now is the Baltimore Ravens at 5-1. But the Arizona Cardinals 6-0 after their win over the Browns. We talked about the Raiders in Denver already. The Cowboys, we said 5-1. They got I don't know if they got lucky, but they did play. They played okay against New England. I thought New England had the game. Of course, if you had the under in that game, those last 3 minutes of the game did not help you at all. And then the overtime certainly didn't help you. But those were the 3 afternoon games, Charlie. But what about the Arizona Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys right now?
Well, the experts had Arizona so out of it in the preseason predictions, Vasu. It was unbelievable. And we kept questioning that ourselves because, last year Arizona was a pretty respectable team. And we couldn't understand why everyone kept saying these guys are going to fall like a rock. And we didn't see that happening. We didn't necessarily see them 6-0 at this point, but we sure couldn't see why they were going to fall so dramatically when everybody said that they were. And of course, they haven't. So we're smarter than the experts. But we are experts, which is really the case. But you talked about Ertz, by the way, and quickly, I think that's a good pickup. I've always liked Ertz.
Yeah.
And I think that with Murray there, and they like to use the tight end, I think that will be a great quick pickup for them to fill into that spot. And so I think they will not miss a beat with him there. He can catch the ball. He's a good blocker. And I think they will just pick right up and go. He's a quick learner. He's a veteran. So that's a great pickup for them.
No doubt about it. The Arizona Cardinals 6-0, the Cowboys 5-1. They beat New England in overtime last week in New England as a 3.5-point favorite. That touchdown helped a lot of people cover that point spread as well. And then we said the Raiders covered the 5.5, not only covered, beat the Broncos outright. All right, we go to Thursday night football now. Oh, well, last game, the Steelers had a 14-0 lead. 14-0 lead on Seattle, and all of a sudden, here come the Seahawks coming back. If you had -5 like I did, that was not fun to watch the second half of the Steelers-Seahawks games. I still can't figure out what's going on. This is Geno Smith behind the quarterback with Seattle, and yeah, he's had 2 good games in a row after the Russell Wilson injury, but they're not doing very well. They're 2-4 right now. They did lose in overtime, 23-20. It pushed on the over/under, but a 14-point lead in the first half in Pittsburgh, that's usually death to a visiting team, Charlie, that goes into Steel City. And yet here's Seattle coming back and making it a game. What's up with Pittsburgh? Do we consider them a contender still in the AFC North because they're there with they're 3-3. They're there with everybody else in that division. But Baltimore is 5-1, and they're 2 games up. I don't think they played yet this year, but that's going to be a good head-to-head matchup depending on which Steelers team shows up. Charlie.
No, I don't think they're contenders. I think they're pretenders because they have waited too long to rebuild that team. I'm still a proponent of the late Bill Walsh's philosophy of you rebuild sooner than later. And they have waited too long. I like Ben Roethlisberger. I always liked him. I think he was a great player. And please note what I just said. He was a great player. He's no longer a great player. They needed to reset. They needed to get somebody in there and ready to go. He should not be a starting quarterback at this point. They've waited too long to rebuild and reset that team, and they're going to pay for it. And they're going to pay for it for the next several seasons because they've waited too long to rebuild that team. And so, no, they're pretenders, and they will not be in it at the end of the season.
Let me rephrase myself here. Pittsburgh in 3rd place, tied with Cleveland at 3-3 the division, maybe a little upside down. I think a lot of people had Baltimore finishing in 3rd, but Cincinnati at 4-2. Your Cincinnati Bengals, Charlie, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase can catch footballs. Their defense and their pass rush is really good. What they did to Detroit, not really surprising what they did to Detroit because Detroit's had a rough year. But some of the games that they've won already, they did beat Pittsburgh early in the year on the road as I think a 5.5-point underdog. They were against Pittsburgh in that week 3 game. So Cincinnati right there, they're a game back. I can't wait to see when Baltimore plays Cincinnati because I got a feeling Zach Taylor and this defensive staff are going to have some surprises for Lamar Jackson on the defensive side because they can rush the passer, and that's the key to defeating a Baltimore Ravens team. The Chargers did not have any pass rush last week,
Mm-hmm.
even with Bosa and everybody that they tried. They tried blitzing, and they tried everything they could, and they fell behind the 8 ball. All right, we go to Thursday Night Football with those Cleveland Browns, both in need of a win. The Denver Broncos go into Cleveland tonight. It's Halloween, right, Charlie? It's Halloween. So just when you thought everything was normal, up from the ashes rises Case Keenum again. Case Keenum, the Cleveland Browns quarterback, former Broncos quarterback. They are a 1-point favorite. The total is 41 on the shores of Lake Erie in Cleveland tonight for Thursday Night Football. We know everybody has to play on Thursday night. This actually, if it was Baker Mayfield in the game, it actually might have been a pretty good game. And I still think it could be a pretty good game. Denver on a 2-game losing streak. They lost to Baltimore. No shame in that. At home 2 weeks ago, coming off 3-0. And then they lose to the Raiders last week at home. So now they're 3-3. Actually, they've lost 3 in a row. And then Cleveland, after their loss to Arizona, they've fallen to 3-3 as well. Big game for both teams. They need a win tonight. Both teams do. What are you looking at for Thursday Night Football, Charlie?
A nap. I mean, what a boring game this is going to be. I mean, if Baker
Everybody's got to play on Thursday, though.
If Baker were there, it might be a bit of an interesting game. I don't know. I mean, and it's not the NFL's fault. I mean, you can't project that this game would be this boring, but it's football, so I'll watch.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be an exciting game. Neither one of these teams are going to figure into being exciting postseason teams. So it's going to be kind of a bore yawn game. It's not a game that I'm going to play. I can tell you that right now, because you take 2, 3, and 3 teams, one without their starting quarterback. That's a wild hair game right there that just says stay away, stay away, stay away. I mean, that just has all the earmarks of just being an upside down game all the way through. I think it's more important for the Browns right now to win because I think they're a more relevant team than are the Broncos. I think the Broncos are a team that I see a whole coaching staff change coming there. I really do. I don't think the coaching staff there was working last year. I don't think it's working there this year. I see a whole coaching staff change coming there with a whole regime change happening. It's just not working there. Where Cleveland, I think, is happening, but Cleveland's in very competitive territory now. Cleveland had the privilege of having Cincinnati be a doormat for years. Well, Cincinnati's not a doormat now. And I know Pittsburgh's not going well, but they're going. They're still going well enough to be a pain in their side, and Pittsburgh will reset. They're a good organization in the sense that it won't take them a long time to get back and be really competitive. So Cleveland needs this win. Otherwise, it's going to be a really blah season for them.
AFC West, very tough, as we said, 4-2 for the Raiders and Chargers. Chiefs and Broncos, both 3-3. Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback. Kareem Hunt got hurt last week. Nick Chubb on the IR for 4 more weeks. Baker Mayfield not playing tonight. Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't been a factor yet. I'm not sure Case Keenum will be able to get the ball to him. Jarvis Landry back after missing time. He came back last week too. But that Cleveland defense with Myles Garrett, still relevant, still very good. Defensively, this could be a good game for Cleveland, but I don't know who's going to run the ball for them, and I don't know what offense they're going to come up with. And Denver needs the win as well too. They're running the ball really well, and Teddy Bridgewater is good enough not to lose games. Their defense lost that game last week against the Raiders too. So Thursday Night Football, that's what we got. Vasi Vada Party, Charlie O here. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast. Every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be on at 12:30 Eastern for the Friday baseball show. We'll preview all the playoffs and review all the playoff games that have happened, both LCSs. And then at 1 o'clock, we'll go into the Friday football show with week 7 of the NFL, week 8 of college football. We move on to college football now. Some of the games from last week that we hadn't talked about, Charlie. Oregon beats Cal. Oregon's having a tough time holding on to the ball. That's a 13.5-point game at home that they should have covered, and they did not. Give Cal credit. But Oregon does not look very good in turning the ball over, and they showed that against Stanford 2 weeks ago. San Diego State beat our Spartans in 2 overtimes. Give San Jose State credit. They're going to play tonight at UNLV. They moved that game from Saturday to tonight. Desmond Ridder in the Heisman talk. UC rolls. Cincinnati rolls. In the Big Ten, Michigan State over Indiana. They barely covered the 4-point spread, and they handled Indiana very well. Offensively, there's still a little challenge. But Michigan State, I want to stop right there. Michigan State, a pretty good team, and they're on the rise. They're upticking, as they say in the stock market, Charlie.
Yeah, undefeated, 7-0. I mean, who saw that coming? Not even Michigan State, man. I mean, and they're getting no respect because everybody's going, well, they shouldn't be 7-0. Well, excuse me, they are. They're playing Big Ten teams, and they beat an IU team that everybody was still touting from last year. So they're playing good teams, and they're winning. So they're a team to keep your eye on because they're playing really, really good football.
Oklahoma State beats Texas in an upset. They were a 3.5-point underdog. They've got a big game this week against Iowa State, again on the road as well, too. Auburn upset Arkansas last week, and LSU in the SEC, they upset Florida. LSU is a 13-point home underdog, and Florida gets beat at home. Of course, the day after, Ed Orgeron announces that he and LSU are going to separate at the end of the year. He's got USC ties as well, too, so you can look for him maybe in the USC list of teams. I wouldn't be so surprised. No, Charlie,
I'll tell you why. Not his coaching skills, but there's some other baggage there, off-field baggage that I don't think USC is going to touch.
Because USC doesn't have any baggage in their history at all.
Oh yeah, no. And that's exactly why I don't think they will. And I don't want to get into it because we're not entertainment.
We're only on for an hour. Yeah.
But I don't. I coaching wise, I think he'd be the guy. But I don't. With the baggage that's there, I don't think they dare go there.
We continue with the Big Ten here. Purdue upset Iowa last week. Iowa beat Penn State 2 weeks ago by 3. They pushed on some cards. They were 2.5 if you got them early against Penn State. So Iowa looked really good defensively. And boy, offensively, they did not look very good at all at home. 11-point favorite. Purdue beats them outright, 23-7. Minnesota beats Nebraska, but those are the bottom feeders. Nebraska's okay this year, but they get upset by Minnesota. But Purdue, the big story, beating number 2 Iowa, previously number 2 Iowa. They dropped to number 11 this weekend. And you think they're getting any respect. Purdue's going to be at home this weekend to Wisconsin, and they're still a 2-point underdog at home this weekend against Wisconsin, whose offense is about slower than any turtle you'd ever see on the road right now, because that's how bad Wisconsin's offense has gone this year. So what about the upset of Iowa by Purdue? Jeff Brom, a really good coach, and now Wisconsin coming in as a 2-point favorite into Purdue.
Well, Purdue has traditionally been a team in the Big Ten that loves to come in and just be a thorn in winning team sides. I don't know what it is about them. They just have always been the team in the Big Ten that comes in and goes, there you go. There's your good season. We just ruined it. It's something about that team that has done that. You always have to worry about Purdue. They're never great, but they're never bad. And now that game at Purdue, playing at Purdue is tough. I've been in that stadium. I've seen a game. They're right on top of the field. I mean, literally the bleachers come right down on the field. It's an intimidating place to play. And coming off a big win on Iowa, they're going to be pumped up. So I'm not saying they're going to beat Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's going to have to be on their game. Otherwise, they could go home with their tail between their legs.
On Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern, we'll have the Friday football show. We'll preview all the conferences and all the big games, but a couple more that I wanted to talk about. Washington State over Stanford. Last week, Stanford had a lead, and then UCLA, a 3-point underdog at Washington. I thought that was a mismatched line because I couldn't believe Washington was favored. That was one of my favorite plays last week, was to take UCLA +3. They've got the big game. Not only did they pull the upset in Washington last week, but they've got their big game against Oregon this weekend, and we talked about Oregon and their problems right now. But they're at home. They're a 2-point favorite according to the early line, against Oregon, who's number 10 in the country. That's a big game, 3:30 Eastern, ABC, the big time slot there for college football, going up against the SEC on CBS. But UCLA, Oregon this weekend, Charlie, on top of coming off their win last week over Washington.
Well, I'm with you. I was surprised that Washington was the favorite in that game. I'm going, has anybody been watching Washington this year? That's a team that's been, to me, in disarray and maybe one of the most disappointing teams in the Pac-12 this year. So I was amazed that UCLA. I was not in a position to be able to do anything because I was on a ship, but I was really disappointed that UCLA was the underdog, and I would have certainly played them if I was in a position to have done that, because that was there. And then Stanford losing to Washington State, that was another disappointment to me.
Especially coming off a win off of Oregon, and yeah, exactly. One more on the Pac-12. Utah was favored over Arizona State last week, which was not that surprising, I guess. But Utah's had a rough year, the way that things have gone over there in Salt Lake City. But they're going to be at Oregon State this weekend, who's pretty good. They're a 3-point favorite. But they beat Arizona State up last week, and that was surprising. A lot of people had Arizona State on their card last week as an underdog on the road at Utah, not having a great year. But Utah comes out and plays well. They're going to be at Oregon State this week. But Utah, something to look at this weekend. Of course, tomorrow, like I said, we'll also talk about USC Notre Dame this weekend as well, too. I'll be interested to see how USC comes out and plays at Notre Dame. The line on that, Notre Dame 6.5 over USC. Don't have a total yet for it. And then Colorado, Cal to round out the Pac-12. Let's just hit the SEC real quick. I just want to talk about this Georgia game because they were 21.5-point favorites, and they were not scoring. Give Kentucky credit. Kentucky's defense is really good, and they're going to play out the SEC West with Alabama having a loss already in conference. That's going to be tough to overcome in terms of winning that SEC West. Georgia, 21.5-point favorite. Mark Stoops calls timeout with 3 seconds left to score a touchdown that Georgia could have stopped, and they don't cover the 21.5, and that threw a lot of people off last weekend in that game. But talk about Georgia a little bit. Their front seven, they're all NFL bound right now. I mean, they look so good the whole game. The fact that Kentucky even got a touchdown in the middle of the game based on the fact that how Georgia's defense was playing. The last touchdown, that blows the point spread and all that. But boy, they give up 14 points to Kentucky for that Georgia defense. A little surprising, but the fact is that they did play Kentucky very tough, and they're good, and they're number one for a reason, Charlie.
Yeah, they really are. And Vasu, I think it's interesting. Alabama has so dominated the SEC for so long, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but everybody else has been just everybody else. And so I don't think that non-traditional or deep football fans have had an appreciation for other teams in the SEC. And I still don't think Georgia's getting a whole lot of respect, even as a number one, because everybody's going, well, where's Alabama? Well, Alabama's not there, and they're not going to be there. And people need to look at Georgia because they are a great football team. And you need to look at them. You need to watch them. And as you said, they've got a lot of players that are NFL bound. They've been working hard. They've been working hard to get to this position. They're a great football team, and you need to watch them because they're fun to watch.
Texas A&M over Missouri last week on the road. That was an easy play. 11 road favorite of 11. They have South Carolina this weekend. Tennessee, Alabama, one of the games. But the big game, no Matt Corral maybe for Ole Miss as they go up against LSU. They're a 9-point favorite according to this. I've seen the line go up to 12. It all depends on if Corral plays for Ole Miss and old Lane Kiffin doing his thing over there in the SEC country. All right, when we come back in 30 seconds, we haven't forgotten about baseball. I certainly haven't forgotten about baseball. The ALCS, NLCS, the Braves and the Astros, one game each away from winning their league championship series and going to the World Series. And we'll talk about something that I haven't seen. I don't think I've ever seen. I think I saw a unicorn yesterday or a dodo bird, depending on what either case is very rare. We'll explain that in 30 seconds on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vatapalli, Charlie O, on this Thursday, October 21st, 2021, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDeAnza.com. Back in 30 with the NLCS, ALCS review and preview for this weekend. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast, second half of the show here. Charlie O, Vasu Vada Party, October 21st, 2021. We did the NFL college football. We talked about Thursday night football and some of the college games that are going to go on. 4 games tonight in college football, including our Spartans. The number 21 SMU plays tonight against Tulane. That'll be an interesting game for SMU coming off their loss last week. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms, Cupertino, Silicon Valley's longest-serving British pub and restaurant, celebrating 40 years. Go out and celebrate with them. The best food and drink. BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. Next time you're in Silicon Valley, 408-252-7262. Charlie, I saw a unicorn yesterday. I don't know if you noticed the unicorn yesterday. It could have been a Doby bird.
You got me intrigued. Go ahead, go.
All right. Well, the Astros and Braves are 1 win away from clinching the NLCS. The Astros with a 9-1 win. Charlie O had the over. Was waiting for that over until the 9th inning.
Oh, listen, man, I was sweating bullets, baby.
Every game in this series has gone over, which tells me that maybe Friday night might go under. Depends on who they have pitching. I haven't seen a pitching matchup yet for the game for Friday. It looks like Nathan Eovaldi is going to go for Boston and undecided for Houston right now. Tonight, it's undecided for the Dodgers who's going to start, but it's a bullpen game. Max Fried, who pitched well in Game 1 on Saturday night against the Dodgers, will go in Game 5 tonight with a 3-1 series lead. Let's start with the National League here, Charlie. How about those Atlanta Braves? I mean, I'm going to give them a lot of credit as a Dodgers fan. They've come in, and boy, do I miss Kike Hernandez and Jock Peterson and Alex Verdugo. Although Verdugo came in the trade with Betts, so I guess I can miss him a little bit less than the other two right now. But their depth seems to be hurting them a little bit. And Justin Turner got hurt yesterday, and he may not play tonight based on that hamstring last night.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, reports just coming out just before we went on the air that Turner may be out, period. If they were to come back and make it into the World Series, Turner would probably not be available now. They've upgraded or downgraded, whatever you do with those things, that sprain to the fact that he would not be available anymore to play this season. So that's really too bad. I hate when that happens. The Braves, man, remember we kept talking about the Braves and what they were doing to supplement themselves coming back all season long. And they have just been amazing. But Vasu, I never saw this coming against the Dodgers. Never, ever. And nor did anyone else. I mean, the sports books certainly didn't see this coming. Yeah. I mean, because the books never wavered on their odds with the Dodgers going to the World Series and winning the World Series. So no one saw this coming. I mean, this is just the surprise of the baseball season.
Not even you, Len Connecty. I'm pointing at you. You did not see this coming. For all the comments I get, I hope somebody passes this on to him. You did not see this coming either, for that matter. So here we go. The big comeback in Game 3 kept them from being down 0-3. Otherwise, this series would have been over. The Bellinger home run Tuesday night. Last night was just a debacle. Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler, who has not played in the NLCS, and Jock Peterson, the 4 outfielders that have replaced the Ronald Acuna Jr. production. And Eddie Rosario was a double away from hitting the cycle. If that ball goes off the fence yesterday in the 9th inning, instead of his second home run of the game, he gets a double. They wouldn't have gotten the 2 runs to make it 9-2, but he would have hit for the cycle, which would have been his second cycle of the year this season. So Eddie Rosario, a part-time player, has turned himself into it. I don't know if he's in a contract year. They traded him from Minnesota or from Cleveland to Atlanta for Pablo Sandoval, and he's certainly come in to do well. Adam Duvall led the National League in RBIs. They got him for a song from Miami. Jock Peterson signed a 1-year contract with the Cubs. Alex Anthopoulos, the GM, got him, and look at what he's done. Now they're renaming October as Jocktober and not Mr. October for Reggie Jackson or Mr. November for Derek Jeter, but Jock Peterson and his Pearls. And I miss Jock Peterson. I thought he was a big part of last year's team right now, but they are 3-1 down. It's going to be very tough. I have a different feeling about 3-1 this year than I do last year because of the travel and the fact that if they win tonight, the Dodgers, speaking of, that they go back to Atlanta where they had 2 walk-offs against them last week. Riley walked him off in Game 1, and Rosario, that guy again, Eddie Rosario, walked him off in Game 2. And Max Fried has had a great year, and he's had a great postseason, and he's going up against what's going to be a bullpen game. Don't know if it's going to be Corey Knebel or David Price or somebody that's going to start the game. And then they'll have to figure out somebody that's going to have to go long man. They used Gonsolin last night, so I don't know if Tony Gonsolin is going to be available tonight to be what they call their bulk guy. So we'll see. Dodgers on the ropes. They are at home. They have that home crowd. I have a feeling there is a line on the game. We'll get to the lines in a second. There is a line on the game, even with no pitchers. Some of the sports books will put a line out to get action, and then they'll adjust it when the pitchers come out. But right now, according to my charts, Max Fried is going to go tonight for the Dodgers. Dodgers are 140 and 8th the total with no pitchers listed on the sports book that I use as well too. So the Braves 1 game away. All right, those Houston Astros, we thought they were dead after game 3. They couldn't swing the bat. The Boston Red Sox were red hot. They were shopping carting their way up and down the dugout all week with the home runs and the 2 grand slams on Saturday in the first 2 innings with J.D. Martinez and Rafael Devers. Houston couldn't get out of their way. Their starting pitching only lasted maybe 2 or 3 innings on average in those first 4 games. Zach Greinke pitched game 4, 1 2/3 innings. It was a 2-1 game going to the 8th when Altuve hits the home run to tie it up, and then they get 7 in the 9th to make Vasu happy for the over that day. And then Charlie, they get 2 yesterday in the 9th, but they've scored 9. They've scored 18 runs in the last 2 games, probably like 13 of them from the 7th inning on in the last 2 games. Now they are 1 game away when they looked at, and they're going home. That's the big difference. The Dodgers, if they win, they have to go to Atlanta, but Houston will go home and play Boston in game 6 and possibly game 7 if Nathan Eovaldi can do anything tonight or tomorrow night. I'm sorry, today's Thursday. Tomorrow night in Houston for game 6. And how about the oh my gosh, what about the starting pitching coming through? The dodo bird, the unicorn I saw yesterday was Framber Valdez, a starting pitcher in this postseason, making it into the 7th or 8th inning of a baseball game as a starting pitcher. I thought it was by way of extinction of the unicorn or the dodo bird or the dinosaur or anything like that. And all of a sudden, here's Framber Valdez pitching not only into the 7th inning, Charlie O, but into the 8th inning. And what a game he had. He retired the first 10 batters of the game. The game was close. I'm sure Dusty Baker had some idea to pull him if the game had stayed close. But then the Astros started building up. They got that 6-run inning in the 7th, and he was able to get through the 7th inning and then get through the 8th, and then they closed it out with Ryan Presley. I believe it was Presley in the 9th. I turned it off or turned it over by then. But 9-1 the final score. 1 game away. Altuve seems to have his back going. Very underrated Michael Brantley. All he does is hit 300 every year. Drove in 3 runs, a big 3-run double the other night to break that game 4 open. And then a little bloop hit yesterday to make to get the game going as well. Yordan Alvarez had 3 RBIs for the Astros. The home run off Chris Sale. That's not easy to do, lefty on lefty. And then the 2 RBI double later in the game to make it 3-0. But what about these Astros and Red Sox now, Charlie? We go to game 6, got a day off, travel for me and for them for tomorrow night in Houston. Boston and Houston, Charlie.
Well, I think for Boston, the worst part is they've got to go to Houston because we know that going to Houston, that crowd goes crazy for them. They play so well in that ballpark. That team is built for that ballpark, and Houston is hitting. All of a sudden, that hitting has come alive. I kept wondering when they were early on when they were in Boston. I'm going, where is the hitting? Where is that team that hits so well? And all of a sudden, voila, there they are. They're hitting the way that they're supposed to hit. And let me just emphasize your point on Michael Brantley. I love that guy. I loved him in Cleveland. I love him down there. He does not get the respect that he should get as a ball player. He's just solid. He's the kind of ball player that any team would love to have, and he would help any team. And he's just there day in and day out. And when you need him, he's there. Altuve, for the Red Sox, boy, that's the wrong time for him to get hot. Sorry guys. If you're a Red Sox fan, this is not the time you wanted to see him get hot. And so they're doing well. You're absolutely right. Seeing a pitcher, especially with Dusty, who has has the quick pull anyway. To see a pitcher go that deep in a playoff game, what a help to the bullpen coming into later games in a series like this. That's huge as well. So yeah, I think everything tilts Houston's favor as they go back to Tropicana.
7 1/3 scoreless innings in Game 4 by the Houston Astros bullpen after Zach Greinke went 1 2/3, only giving up the 2 runs. The Xander Bogaerts home run, very short-lived. Well, actually, I shouldn't say short-lived, but it was 2-1 all the way to the 8th inning. And then Altuve ties it up, and then the Astros get 7 in the 9th to make it a 9-2 game. And then yesterday, they just methodically attacked the Red Sox pitching. I don't think the Red Sox pitching is strong enough. Their bats have got to get going. The bats have not gotten going the last 2 days, and credit Houston and their bullpen for that as well. 8 1/3 innings the last 2 games, no runs given up by the Astros bullpen. And you're right, they are going home to that ballpark that's made for them. Alex Bregman hit a home run the other day as well, too, so he's starting to get back into it. Correa slumped a little bit since Game 1, but they've got Altuve, they've got Brantley, they've got Alvarez, who seems like he's hitting a little bit. Even Jason Castro, the former Stanford catcher, second iteration, second go-around with the Astros, he had the big hit to open up that 9th inning to give them the 3-2 lead that let them get the next 6 runs and make that a 9-2 game on Wednesday night. So Houston, Game 6 at home. Dodgers Game 5 at home. We do have a line on the Dodgers game. It is 140. No pitcher yet for the Dodgers, but that's non-listed pitchers. I have a feeling Max Fried is going to go tonight, and it will be a bullpen game for the Dodgers as well. All right, when we come back in 30 seconds, we're going to talk NBA. The NBA has started, for those that haven't noticed. Some interesting numbers to go about. There's the Dodger line right there. Let's put that up real quick. The Dodgers are 140. No official pitchers listed on the sports book yet, but a lot of speculation it's going to be Max Fried and a bullpen game for LA as well. So as he said, coming back in 30 seconds for the last segment, we will hit the NBA. The first 2 days have been very interesting. Some early season numbers already to take from that when we come back on the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday, October 21st, sponsored by Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Vasuvada Party, Charlie O here with you. See you in 30 seconds. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Charlie O, Vasuvada Party here with you on a Thursday, October 21st for the Thursday edition of the show. We'll be back tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern for the Friday baseball show. We'll preview Game 6 and hopefully a Game 6 for the Dodgers and Braves, but definitely Game 6 for the Astros and Red Sox on Friday night and a potential Game 7 as well. I want to shout out people on Facebook and YouTube. Hi, Susan. Thanks for watching. Appreciate all the notes you sent me as well through Instagram. Janine and Robbie both on Facebook as well to getting to us. Don't forget to check out our social media on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Our picks will be up by 6 o'clock. Our selections will be up by 6 o'clock Eastern every day during the week. Then we start at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern on Saturday for college football and noon Eastern on Sunday for NFL football. So keep following us. Right now, we're hot. We are hot right now. Our games are going pretty well right now. So just have to stick with us for a little bit. Everybody goes through spells. And we are not oblivious to that as well. And our problem is we're too honest about when we lose to complain about it. All right, let's get to the NBA here a little bit. Let's start with Tuesday a little bit, Charlie. First of all, did you see the size of those rings the Milwaukee Bucks got the other night? I don't know if you saw them. Every year they get bigger and more ostentatious.
They're not rings. They're trophies.
They're trophies. They're trophies. They're big. They're almost as big as the Larry O'Brien trophy itself. But how about this? They still didn't get any respect. Brooklyn came in as a 1.5-point favorite. Milwaukee drubbed them. They did not go over the total, 237.5. It ended up at 232 because Milwaukee had a blowout. And by the time the fourth quarter rolled around, all the backups were all in. And the Lakers were a 3.5-point favorite over the Warriors, 228 the total. The game went over. But Golden State, no Klay Thompson, no Wiseman, really not. I mean, and even Curry went 5 of 13 from the field. And yet they got a victory in Los Angeles over the Lakers on opening night in Staples, which is not easy to do. And you can understand if they lose a game 1 there on the road. But the fact is that the Warriors but the Warriors went in and beat them.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. The Warriors at one point, I don't know how it finished out. I didn't check the stats. I should have, but at one point in the game, late in the game, the Warriors had 41 buckets and 30 assists. I mean, it's crazy. And then they showed a stat, Vasu, that last year when the Warriors had over 30 assists, they went 30-3 in those games, which tells you everything about the Warriors. When the Warriors are moving the ball, you're not going to beat them. So that's what they did, and they were moving the ball, especially in that second half, and they looked impressive. And okay, Lakers fans, don't go into a panic. Okay, you got a lot of new people on the floor. You got a lot of talent on the floor. I mean, we've been making a lot of jokes about them being the senior citizens and getting Medicare and all of that. There's a lot of talent on the floor. They're just going to have to gel a little bit. It's going to take them a few games to get used to playing with each other and making everything happen. The Lakers are going to be a force, and they're going to be there at the end. Okay, that is just fact. The Warriors, I think they're going to be good. They're going to get Klay Thompson back probably January. I think that will be excellent as well. It's going to be fun between those teams. But Laker fans, do not go into a panic over one game. All right, please calm down.
Calm down, everybody. And talking to a Lakers fan here, and they were up by 9. Thought it was going to be a good way to open the NBA year, covering the -3 for the Lakers. But give the Warriors credit. Jordan Poole had a big game in the fourth quarter as well, too. Curry, we said 5 of 13, but Poole did step up, and Andrew Wiggins stepped up with the dagger at the end as well, too. All right, last night in the NBA, the full slate. How about those Washington Wizards? They hold Toronto to 83 points last night. That's a big shock for a Washington team that likes to run up and down the court, and I think they're going to be a factor this year. The Wizards beat Toronto, 2.5-point underdog, my favorite play of the night last night. 2.5-point underdog over Toronto. It was a blowout for most of the game. It ended up a 15-point victory, but they were up by as many as 27-28 in that game. The Knicks go 2 overtimes with Boston. I think the game would have stayed under for Charlie had it not gone into overtime at all. But 2 overtimes, very exciting for the Knicks to pull off an opening night victory in New York. Gives hope to the New York fans. Boston missing some pieces. Obviously, Kemba Walker there for the Knicks helped them a little bit as they defeated his old team in the Boston Celtics. The Memphis Grizzlies beat Cleveland. That was another of my picks yesterday. If you saw the social media, you saw Memphis, you saw Washington, you saw Denver, and you saw San Antonio. That's a 4-0 night, people. So make sure you check out us at 6 o'clock Eastern to make sure you know what's going on. 4-1 to start the year in the NBA. Memphis beat up on Cleveland. It was a close game till the end. That John Morant, he's a stud, and they got Steven Adams in the middle now for Memphis, and they're playing defense. With him there, they're going to play some defense, and he got key rebounds. And this guy, DeAnthony Melton for Memphis, he's going to be a good player for them, and he had big shots down the stretch. And Desmond Bane, who played at Oklahoma State, for those college fans, he's a good player as well too. And don't count out the Memphis Grizzlies yet. And then Philadelphia without Ben Simmons, an easy win last night at New Orleans. They beat them 117-97. And then the late games, the 2 underdogs, and we'll get to the stats in a second here, but the 2 underdogs, another one of my favorite games last night was the Nuggets at 6.5, getting 6.5 at Phoenix. They routed Phoenix last night. Nikola Jokic looked like the MVP from last year. They beat them up 110-98. The game stayed under. Denver's defense played well. Monty Morris looked good. Jokic looked good. Michael Porter Jr., he's just got the smoothest stroke that I've seen out of anybody 6'10". Yeah, 6'7" or taller has the smoothest stroke, and they just couldn't miss last night. They did have a rough second quarter, and they were down 7 at the half, but they turned that around. And Michael Malone, Charlie O's man crush, turned them around in the second half, third and fourth quarter. It was all Denver at that point. And then the Sacramento Kings, the game did not look like it was going to go over. I did have the over 234. It was only 111 at the half, but then they go like 75 points in the third quarter. Nobody could miss in the third quarter. And then Sacramento had to hold off a 17-point lead to a 3-point lead as Dame Lillard almost tied the game up at the buzzer. 124-121 for the Kings and Blazers. Charlie, the favorites are 8-5 in the first 2 days of the NBA. The over-unders right around 500 at 7-6. Not really much to go on right now, but it seems like the good teams are good to start. and the teams that are going to be surprising teams like Washington and Denver are going to be right there as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the NBA is so hard to handicap early on. Uh, you, the old rule is NBA early always go over because defense takes a while to hold on. But it was interesting. What did you say? The overs right now are what?
7-6. They're one game
7 and
above
6.
500.
So that's kind of an adage right now that says, well, okay, that's not necessarily true. You take like that Kings game last night. If it wasn't for Harrison Barnes, that game probably wouldn't have gone over. Harrison Barnes hit 6 of 6 from 3-point land in the third quarter. He had 18 points in the third quarter, and they were all 3-pointers.
Right.
That's an anomaly. That's not the norm in those kind of situations. By the way, the Nuggets last night going in and beating the Suns up on their home floor, impressive. I think they made a huge statement last night about who they want to be and what they want to be there. Let's deal just a little bit quickly with the 76ers. Ben Simmons suspended, behavior detrimental to the team. The question becomes now is where is Ben Simmons going to land? I mean, Ben Simmons is in 10 games, Ben Simmons is not going to be a 76er. They've got to get him out of there. It's bad for the team. It's bad for him. They can't afford to have a player at that kind of money with this kind of disruption on a team. It's not going to be there. There's a lot of speculation still, Vasu, that Simmons is going to wind up in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Sacramento's been trying to work a deal to send Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley III, and a combination of draft picks to Philly to get Simmons here. And he would fit here. They would probably put him at the 4, which is where he needs to play down low because we all know he can't shoot from the outside. He wouldn't have to play the point, which he doesn't want to play here because they've got plenty of point guards. And I think there's still a chance that could happen. Would that make them the NBA champions? No. Would that put them into the playoffs? Yeah, they might break their 15-year playoff drought with that. But keep your eye on that because Ben Simmons is going somewhere and he's going somewhere fast. When you start the season off, I'm not even going to show up, and then I show up and I start off suspended for game 1. They're going to get you out of town quickly, and he's going out of town quickly.
It'll be an interesting situation with Ben Simmons. Now, with everything going public, it may not you may not have to give up as much as you did during the summer. All right, last minute here, the NBA games for tonight. Atlanta 2.5 versus Dallas at home. Atlanta favored to be one of the top teams in the East right now. Trae Young, Luka Doncic, they were traded for each other. That game on TNT. Milwaukee, a 2.5-point favorite, 224 the total at Miami. And Golden State, coming off their victory against the Lakers, will have their home opener tonight on TNT. 3.5-point favorite against the Clippers, 228 the total right now. We'll have our picks for you at 6 o'clock Eastern in terms of NBA and MLB games as well. Don't forget the NHL all back as well. St. Louis with a big win last night. The St. Louis Blues are red hot. They won in Las Vegas last night as an underdog. Wish I had enough money for that because that was a good play too as well. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern for the Friday Baseball Show. Make the Money and Run Friday Baseball Show, followed by the Friday Football Show that we do every Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Charlie O here, Vasi Vadaparty here, the Make the Money and Run podcast. We'll have intern Nick Robinson on as well too with his unique angles and prop wagering and player props as well. All right, that's going to do it for the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday. Sponsored by Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDianza.com. We will see you tomorrow at 12:30 for the Friday Baseball Show and then the Saturday Baseball Show or the Friday Football Show afterwards. Take care, everybody.